Whoa, guys. Whoa. That was the most insane, savage episode of television I've ever seen in my life. This is the Walking Dead After Show for AfterBuzz TV, Season 7, Episode 1. We're going to break down the whole crazy thing for you guys in total sadness and memoriam. We'll see you in just 1 second.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hi, guys.
It's usually a lot easier to start off with energy at the beginning of one of these episodes.
Yeah, I feel like there's blood running down our screen right now.
I think
Yeah.
there is.
Yeah.
It's all over the place.
Like, wow. Welcome to the show, guys. Welcome to the Walking Dead After Show for AfterBuzz TV, Season 7, Episode 1. I said it in the intro just now, but that was the most intense, savage episode of TV I've ever watched.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And bad, and it was amazing, but it just heart-wrenching episode.
Yes, absolutely unbelievable, guys. A whole crazy offseason of all of us waiting to see the outcome of one of the great cliffhangers in TV history at this point. I called last season that this would break records for the highest rated premiere ever. I don't know what the numbers are yet.
We won't know until next week.
We'll premiere for you to let you know if it was even close. But I'll bet you it was. Next week.
Yeah. Like, damn, ratings are getting slow this time.
So welcome to the show, guys. We have an awesome panel. We have a stacked conversation to get into. We have a shot in memoriam of the departed cast members to do here. And so much fun stuff to break down. I'm your host, Ben Bateman, joined on my left by the returning cast member of the panel, Mr. John Carle.
Hi, John Carle. Ooh. I don't even want to give intros. I just want to have this shot right now.
Where can they find you?
You can find me at the John Carle on Twitter and Instagram, and Whiskey and Waffles on YouTube.
We have a brand new panelist, Susannah Kim. Welcome to the panel.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm way excited. Actually, I was more excited until I saw the episode. Now I'm just a little depressed, but yeah, I'm happy to be here, you guys. You guys can find me at Susannah_Kim. It's SUSANNAH_KIM.
She's at like a quarter of the energy of what she walked in the building with.
You should have seen me earlier. I was real happy.
Yeah, she was all excited, and well, the episode took care of that. So,
and you guys can find me at Ben Bateman Media on Twitter and Instagram. We're gonna do a shot right now and explain why in just 1 second.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys, to Glenn and Abraham.
Glenn and Abraham.
Spoilers. So, guys, that was Johnny Walker Black. A wonderful gift from the folks at Skybound.
Yep.
Which is the production company that Robert Kirkman owns, who created The Walking Dead.
I'm going to save more of this for later.
Absolutely. So before we get into the whole thing, guys, there's some really cool stuff we want to tell you about. So John Carle brought in this Lucille bat here, which is really, really awesome.
It's been hanging out in my office for the past 2 weeks.
Yep.
And people are like, what's that for? If they don't know what The Walking Dead is, so it freaks everybody out. It's great.
Yeah. And then we got this incredible gift from Skybound. We have it back here. It's actually the reason we just did a shot, as well as the fact that important cast members died. So if you're on camera, you can see this. If you're not, I'll explain what it is. It's an incredible backpack. It's like a full-on...
It's like a bug-out bag survival kit.
Yes.
From everybody at Skybound.
It's not like cheap or like chintzy. It's like unbelievable. The whole thing, I mean, it's incredible. It's filled with a tent. It came with a bottle of Johnny Walker Black.
Those shot glasses.
Yeah, these like condensable shot glasses that are in like a little like leather pouch. There's like a compass watch. There's like a Swiss Army knife type of deal in here. There's an issue of Walking Dead #1. Yep. Looks like there's speakers on the side here, maybe.
No, that's just an extra pouch. Oh, and there's a solar charger because when the world ends, you need to make sure that you have power for your phone.
Yes.
Despite the fact that cell towers will be totally screwed at that point.
Unbelievable. So yeah, guys,
thank you, Skybound.
Super cool. We're so excited. We're going to try to divvy up the loot between all of us. And of course, we got to do the shot of the Johnny Walker Black on air to commemorate the death of 2 incredibly important characters. So without further ado, I say we just get right into it because I know everybody's waiting.
So at the end of the last season, you and I and Daryl came up with our guesses of who it was going to be, and I'm guessing the paper that had that written down and who had what bets completely gone at this point.
Actually, maybe still in my car. I probably could track it down.
Nice. Okay, so we'll keep the show going as you go out to get there. No. Okay.
Guys, tweeted Daryl, by the way. He's the 4th panelist. Yeah. He'll be back next week. Daryl Kristen. He thinks he's too good for this show to this week. But tweet him and let him know that he should be here. No, just kidding, guys. He's doing an awesome event. So.
But there were, aside from who was going to get killed, there were 2 predictions. One was going to be making it go the entire episode before the reveal would happen, and the other was it literally starts out with the swing. And they fooled us because we didn't get either of those. We got it about halfway through the episode.
And then again.
Yeah, and then again.
5 minutes later.
Yeah. So should we talk about the first one?
I think we should go chronologically on this one. Most of the time we break down episodes in plot points, but this episode sort of existed as only really 2 storylines that were happening at the same time.
Yep.
So I think we can just jump into chronologically where this opens up, and that's that Rick's got blood on the side of his face, which to any of us that are obsessed with the show, we're all obsessed with the show, we all probably saw that and immediately thought, was that on the side of his face before? I don't think it was.
That was the first thing we thought.
So, but they premiered a clip and a screenshot of that about a week ago. So just the fact that the blood was on one side of his face only ruled out a couple characters, if it even came from that side, which it didn't. It turned out it came from Negan's bat. So that was the first thing.
But it did still come from that side.
Yes,
it was over there.
Yeah,
true. But they tried to fool you into thinking that it was 100%, and that wasn't the reason.
Yep.
So he starts talking to Rick, and it becomes pretty apparent pretty quickly that we're not actually going to get the reveal right away. We're not going to get the bat swing, and we all started to think maybe they're going to give us it at the end of the episode. Maybe, just maybe, and I heard this all week. They're going to actually make us wait till the second episode to find out.
Thank God.
I mean, that was a situation where I saw a bunch of memes online where it's like, if they kill Daryl, we write. If they kill Glenn, we write. And then there was a great meme of Negan going, well, I guess I'm going to cause a riot. But if they legitimately held the reveal until next episode, there would have been a riot. Especially because like Hardwick and all the Talking Dead people were down at Hollywood Forever Cemetery. There would have been a literal massacre at that event tonight.
In Hollywood.
Yes.
Like dig more graves at the cemetery.
Yeah, I mean, you're right there already.
It's raining tonight. It's so weird. It never rains in LA.
Insane.
And that's already like an awesome location, incredible location, but like when it gets a little damp in that location, it's not as pleasurable to be, and if it's actually raining on you, that's a rough one.
Yeah, because most people bring like lawn chairs and stuff like that, so they're like actually sinking into the ground, which is really disturbing.
I mean, that's kind of epic. That's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Hollywood, watching this episode, raining, I can't. I'm jealous.
I have to say, I do love the location for that, and also anytime it's like a scary or like horror type of a thing. I saw Poltergeist there recently. I actually covered the Outcast premiere there recently, which was awesome and super creepy. And it's a great location to watch dark stuff. So, but anyway, this opens up. We don't get the immediate bat swing that we want, or I think we all wanted, and
because we're all terrible people.
Because we're all terrible people. It kind of draws it out, but man, was the tension sweet.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, what's it going to be like for the person who has the ability to finish season 6, the final episode, and then turn on the day when you will come. The day will come when you will not be, which is this one, and go straight into it. And how much different of an experience is that going to be than what we just had to go through?
So tomorrow I will actually find that out, because Wally, who does Whiskey and Waffles with me, only got caught up on The Walking Dead a week and a half ago.
Oh my God.
So he's been like marathoning through stuff and then listening to our after show after it. And so he's been going through all of the emotions that we have over like the last 3 years over the course of like a month and a half.
Right.
So he's like right at the point where we were, but he only has that little time. Like that was the end of season 2 of Game of Thrones for me.
Yeah.
Is I blazed through it on Blu-ray and went right into season 3, and he goes, you have no idea how hard the spot between season 3 to season 4 is going to be for you, because that's what we go through on this show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And then he was right.
Yeah, it's crazy. I actually, without distracting too much from this episode, but I mean, obviously, there's a lot to cover. I was catching up on various episodes of Walking Dead over the course of the last couple of weeks. Like, I didn't do a full binge, but I was trying to watch certain episodes. And so one of the ones I queued up, of course, was the first episode, because I hadn't watched it in a while. It's really amazing to watch this one and see how deliberate every little thing is now, because they know how many people are watching.
Yeah, there's nothing left to chance.
Whereas in that first episode, there's actually a lot of things. I don't know if either of you have watched it recently, but there's a lot of things that don't actually add up as far as how zombies act now in the show. It's a little different. Like, for instance, there's the zombie like bends down and picks up her little like stuffed animal when Rick first sees that little girl, the very first zombie you see. Which I don't think they're cognizant to pick up like a stuffed animal.
No, they don't. They don't pick stuff up. They will try to tear and grab if there's food there, but they don't interact with random objects anymore.
There was also when he walks up behind her, he's like, little girl, she pauses and she doesn't move for a second. She stands still for like 3 or 4 seconds before she turns. That never happens. They immediately turn. It's just like little things like that where I think they hadn't quite figured it all out, and now you go back, it doesn't make as much of a difference.
Well, I think it was a matter of, at that point, there were certain things that they did for dramatic tension.
Yeah, definitely.
And they hadn't established established their own science yet around the zombies or the walkers, because they still won't ever call them zombies. But there wasn't the science behind it.
Yeah.
And they realized, like, you know, once you get to a point with this show, you have to have a very clear set of rules. And, you know, you could get away with the early seasons not obeying them as long as moving forward, you adhere to those pretty strictly.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. There was a few others I noticed, but I just thought that was really interesting, like the difference in the show now, obviously. There's so much more.
Is it just me, or was it before? It seemed like when the zombies scratched you, that was also possible infection.
Yeah,
you get
definitely.
infection
And
from it,
we don't really see that much anymore. You know, they're very much more hands-on, I feel like, and there's less, I don't know.
You're not
they're
breaking the
less
skin as
careful
much
about
anymore,
that.
though. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the deterioration and everything, we've talked about this before, how it's been years now, and the degradation of the bodies, it's kind of a different experience. Zombies, just in every case now, are closer to just being disintegrated. They're not closer to people anymore. So in any case, the episode opens up and we get this great interaction between Negan and Rick. And Rick says, "I'm going to kill you." And Negan's like, "Are you kidding me?"
Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but I will kill you.
Casablanca.
And he takes him into the RV.
Yep.
So now we guys, just for anybody watching this who wants to hear about it, we will do a post predictions spoiler section that relates to the comic books, because several of us have read the comics. We won't reference it at all, but he brings this hatchet, and now the hatchet, did you guys remember who had it? I guess it must have belonged to Abraham.
And see, I remember specifically seeing, like, I just see an image in my mind. There was a hatchet that was dropped, and someone goes back to pick it up, and I remember thinking, like, oh, you think you're gonna need that? And that's just like an image that I see, but I assume someone else would have noticed that, you know, because you said the preview has been on. But I can't remember exactly who had the hatchet.
See, because the preview came out there, I went on blackout that if I literally saw anything that said Walking Dead, I was not reading it.
Yeah.
So even that as a hint wouldn't have helped me, because I never would have gone back to look at a previous episode. And, you know, for the audience that's listening and watching, like, we watch the episode and then pretty much come right back into here, so we don't have the time, unfortunately, to go do that diligent research.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? It reminds me, I'm going to try to load up the live chat, or unless one of you guys wants to. Probably have a decent live chat going, I'm guessing. I'll see what I can do. So Negan takes the hatchet and there we go. We're gonna get the live shot up on the screen here. That's great.
Perfect.
And gets Rick into the RV with the hatchet, and there was a second, so Rick goes for it. He picks up the hatchet and tries to kill him. He turns around with the gun.
Yep. Okay, is it just me,
go ahead.
or does the gun feel out of character for Negan?
It totally does.
Okay.
I think so too.
That's literally the one thing about this episode that I was not a huge fan of. Again, he is a different character from the comic books and stuff like that. We've already seen that with the way that he organizes his people, the fact that he lets women out in the field and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's definitely a different character, no doubt about that. But him holding a gun is actually less intimidating to me than him just holding the bat.
That's what I thought too. I feel like it weakened him in a way. Like, oh, you need a gun? You know? Like, I feel like you don't need that. You have it all right here. All the words that you say, those are just as powerful and scary, I'd say.
Andrew Lincoln deserves to be on a list of top 5 all-time crazy eyes in TV characters. He's mastered the crazy eyes.
Got it.
You almost wonder does he put something in his eyes to make them more red and bloodshot? I don't even know. But I almost thought when he goes for Negan with the hatchet, he almost would have just thrown it. Just released it, just gone full tilt into the head. Just doesn't even care at that point, because at that point he's just watched.
He's broken.
Right.
Well, not yet. He really gets broken later.
He gets broken further.
And god damn, was that sweet.
Oh, it was
when he
epic.
gets actually broken.
That broke me.
I will say, so I said it to open this, but I think this was the most intense and gruesome episode of television I've ever watched. But not only that, I think that the pacing of this episode of television was fantastic. Just the way it was all set up. I mean, one thing to the next thing, for us to get that payoff of Rick breaking finally with the stuff with Carle.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. And just a great performance by Andrew Lincoln, too.
Yeah.
I realize the people who break are the ones who usually have gunk and snot falling out of their face at that point, because it's a mix of tears and booger, and it's just that's when you know somebody does not care anymore, because they're not even trying to maintain composure. They're just I'm done.
Hysterical.
Yeah, they're completely gone at that point.
if you as an actor, if you can get yourself to the point where you're drooling or like boogering hysterically, that's a really good thing for your
Right.
performance.
Yeah.
Daniel
Just
Day-Lewis is a
beside
master
yourself.
of the
I
drool.
just need somebody to like slap me around in between takes. Like they have to actually like physically break me before I can be emotionally broken.
Yeah.
Where's the actual
'Cause I'm dead
Lucille? Can we
inside.
get
Yeah, unbelievable. So he takes him into the trailer, and you're sort of like, what's gonna happen here? Rick tries to attack him. They drive away to the place where like the burned logs were, the incredibly CGI looking burned logs,
Yep.
which didn't look as fake when we were watching it, but maybe we just weren't paying attention because we were just waiting for the.
I think we watched it on a better TV this time too.
Yeah, maybe. God, even just seeing those flashbacks, to like last season on The Walking Dead, just reminded me of how much of a complete blue balls that was. The end of the episode.
Oh yeah.
God, just like I was okay with it at the time because I think that the general reaction, everybody was so mad. Was so mad.
Yeah.
And I was trying to be a little more okay with it because I was like, I understand why, but just thinking about it, I mean, that's why I was a little afraid we were going to get the same exact thing.
They kind of put us through a lot of the same torture in the beginning, playing through that last scene. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
the fact that it opens up post Lucilleing, like, I mean, I was like, oh, they can't do that to us, but thankfully we got the payoff on that part.
So he drives over there and he throws the hatchet out and he basically tells Rick, get my hatchet. You belong to me now. All your people belong to me now.
Yep.
And Rick, admittedly, has not yet broken. He's still in crazy mode. Like he wants to kill Negan. He still wants to kill Negan.
Yeah.
And
Well, he thinks he can still kill Negan at that point.
yeah, and he goes out and like, I mean, I thought it was a little unbelievable that he would just be able to like push walkers off of him and like just run around and just like not even remotely kind of risk maybe getting hit,
Right.
But I mean, whatever. And then
That's just suspension of disbelief at this point for the story. Yeah.
right.
climbs up on the top of the RV. Now, when he was on the RV and he looked at the hanging guy who we'd seen from the previous season,
Yep.
did you guys both know at one point he was going to jump onto the guy?
No.
No.
Oh, really? I
did
totally
not
saw it
consider
coming. I
that.
was like, he's going to jump on the guy. He's going to crawl up the chain. He's going to try to escape. Obviously, he didn't try to escape. But
I honestly thought he was going to take his aggression out on the hanging guy while he was up on the roof, like
Yeah.
just to finally get the chance to vent,
Yeah.
which he ended up doing when he got back on the ground. But
Yeah.
I thought that was going to be his punching bag, essentially.
yeah, so when he's up on the roof, once he gets up on the roof, we start to get the black and white flashbacks, the quick
Yes.
like the quick cut flashbacks to each character as they're trying to build the tension.
bit of a
The
tease.
eeny, meeny, miny, mo type
Yeah.
of flashbacks.
And we finally, about 25 minutes into the episode, I think it was,
Yep.
we get the first one. And Negan, who he actually ends the cliffhanger from last season on.
Yep.
And it turns out to be Abraham.
Yep.
Now, go ahead.
Okay, so that's the one where when the hit comes down, we're all watching, and it's obviously like incredibly intense, but because it got through that whole time without the blood ending up on Rick's face,
Yeah.
that's why I was like, oh crap, there's going to be another one. But then they threw another red herring at us because it was from the bat itself being
Yeah.
flipped over.
Right.
So I was like, oh, maybe they are going to get through on
And then
it.
you feel safe again,
Yep.
Right.
and they take it all away.
But damn, that was brutal. That hit was amazing.
Right on the top of the head.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
And suck my nuts. You got out of Abraham.
That was pretty good.
Well, prior to the hit. He
Yeah.
wasn't saying much after the first one.
No, that's what he said. He said it after,
after
the first
the
hit.
first one.
Oh, was he? Yeah, you're right.
He gets hit, and then he
the
says,
rest of
suck
it
my
goes.
nuts right after the first hit. And he looks him right in the eyes, and then he just gets beaten to death. And so here was my initial thought, because the common theories thrown around in the offseason were the three characters that were in question, really, were Daryl, Glenn, and Abraham. Those were the three. I went on TV Fights, Screen Junkies last season, and one of the questions was, it was a Walking Dead episode, and the question was who died. And I think, if I remember correctly, I wanted to fight for Glenn, but my 1 and 2 were Daryl and Glenn. I think somebody else got to fight for Glenn, so I had to
Right.
fight for Daryl, and I think I actually won the argument. Even though in my heart I wanted to fight for Glenn dying, I didn't believe it. But I had thought it was Glenn the whole time. And when it was Abraham, like, my argument against Abraham the whole time was just that I didn't feel like the build-up was sufficient because a major character, and I think it's common knowledge at this point, but we will get to it in a spoiler section at the end of the episode, a major character dies in episode 100 of the comic book, which is what this episode harkens back to. And
Issue
so-
number 100. Not,
What?
not episode
Issue
100.
Yeah, issue number 100.
Okay, yeah.
And you get a major character that dies, and this episode was supposed to reference that. So,
Yep.
for me, because Abraham is a major character, but he's not one of the core 5 or 6,
Nope.
Right.
it would have felt a little bit, if that was the big payoff, like a little short, like a short-sighted. It was like that you can't, but also because I know television and I know how hard it is to kill your darlings, the really important characters. There was a little bit part of me that was like, once he did the flick and you saw the blood on the face,
It's like, oh, we're done.
Yeah, I was
over.
kind of like, maybe that's all we're gonna get. You know, they don't want to get rid of Glenn. They don't want to get rid of Daryl. Like, maybe they just want to keep us. So what was your guys' thought right at that moment?
I mean, I kind of thought before this started, I was thinking, okay, it could be Abraham because he does say taking it like a champ. And the only people I can really imagine taking it like a champ would be Abraham.
Yep.
He is sort of maybe more of a threatening figure of them to
Yeah.
continue on to this and, to have
biggest
him
guy.
really be submissive to Negan. So that sort of made sense to me. As well as they were kind of dropping these little hints of Abraham talking about having a baby, thinking to the future, and it's like don't let him
Don't
think
get
about the
happy
future
in this
too
show.
much because
Yeah.
So those are the reasons why I thought, okay, that makes sense that it was Abraham. But you're right. Once I saw the blood on the face, I was like, it's over. I thought everyone was safe, and we're
Yeah.
like, we'll cruise through the rest of the season. No,
We couldn't even get through to the next 10 minutes.
Exactly.
Thinking back to that moment, before we get Glenn, right after Abraham, now that I think about it, there's no way they could have done that because there's no way this show could have had that big of a buildup
and
not
only taken him out.
because ultimately this show has lost so many viewers anyway. Like, it hasn't lost its actual numbers, but so many of the diehards from the beginning stopped watching in those middle seasons and complained that it became a soap opera. They didn't like the plot lines. They didn't like the newer characters. That for this to be this big built-up plot line with Negan, I just think if you make us all wait the whole offseason to see who it is, you don't even show us in the finale, and you just make it Abraham, I think it's a huge turnoff for people.
I would agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That would have been a huge
And that would be the
disappointment.
same as getting to the second episode without the reveal.
Yeah.
Right.
So then you get the whole second speech. How far into the speech did you said you knew, right? Into the second speech that Glenn was going to bite it too?
Before we even got to the second speech, the reason the second speech happens is because Daryl takes a swing.
Yes.
And the fact that Daryl takes a swing, he gets instantly put down, and then Dwight comes over with the bow or with the crossbow and stuff like that. I was like, they can't do it with anything other than Lucille right now. Anything that's happening to a person, and I was like, okay, maybe this is how they get their second one, because taking out Daryl is that moment that everybody doesn't want, but it feels like a satisfying end to that long wait.
So you
And
got
with
Daryl.
his own crossbow.
At that point,
Yeah.
It was like the only way I could see it is if like Negan was like, no, I got this, and then just went right into for the swing. But
Yeah.
obviously he didn't. And then he starts into his second speech, and it's like, this is kind of the new status quo. This is what everything needs to be. And the way the shot was framed is actually what gave it away for me, because he's giving that entire speech all the way to the left side of the frame. And there are very few shows, I think Mr. Robot is actually the only one that does off-center framing for like majority of their episode. So the fact that he was giving that speech and he was right next to Glenn, I think like 2 to 3 seconds before the swing happened, I was like, he's going to bite it right now. And I saw like a cringe from you two, and then he just turned and the swing happened.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting when you talk about that, the framing.
Yeah.
You can tell there's very like traditional shots in television and framing where for instance, when it's the over the shoulder, someone's going to come in the door, or it's like those things you just kind of feel it, and we're all conditioned to know the shot. So I think a couple seconds before, as soon as I could see his shoulder twitch, it was like, oh, of course, because he's right there.
He's literally in the perfect position that if you're holding the bat and you're going to spin around, it goes right into Glenn's head at that point.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he was definitely prepped for it. You saw it. I could just imagine it happening before it even happened.
Yeah.
And it was so depressing. Did anyone else feel like crying? No? I was like, I just met these dudes, so I should probably not cry.
No,
but
already dead
if anyone's
inside.
crying-
When the Abraham kill was happening, my jaw was dropped. When the Glenn kill was happening, my jaw was dropped, my eyes were wide,
Yes.
and I almost was getting a little nauseated, honestly. I didn't get close to crying, but I did have a moment there where I was like, I don't think I'm gonna puke, but if I did actually have to get up and walk out of the room right now and puke, like, would I be really embarrassed? Like,
Yes,
what?
yes.
Yeah.
No, see, the thing was, it was so brutal. I think it was past the point of being able to cry for something like that.
Yeah.
Really? I mean, that image of Glenn, too, and the way they dragged that out, and his still being conscious enough to plead to Maggie was so epic. And that's what made me feel for it.
Yeah, that was pretty brutal. But, and we're not going to spoil anything from the comics, but that whole him just trying to say to Maggie, that was from the comics, and that's what you and I were like,
Yeah.
oh man.
It's his eyes popped out of his head. The whole script's the same.
Yeah.
The eye
it was
too?
very shot for shot, but in the right way.
And this is one of those ones where we talked so much last season about, are they really going to give us that actual shot with the bash on the head, the cracked skull, the popped eye, and Glenn trying to utter the words Maggie. Are they really going to get that?
And literally the Negan speech of saying, your eye is popping out of your head. This is so freaking gross.
Yeah, the one difference is that Negan... is this an explicit podcast? Can we say the F word? I can never remember.
I think we behave on it, but...
he uses the F-bomb like 77 times in that sequence or something.
Yeah, so I think there was a count. It's like, it's over 65 times.
Oof.
And...
that's why they dropped shit so many times.
Yeah.
Like, it was incredible.
I just like when he... It was just like one of those moments where you're just like, this is cable television. This is not HBO. This is not Showtime. This is not adults only. There's no warning. If there is a warning, it's just a cable TV warning. Like you can watch this. The same person that has The Simpsons can watch this. If you just have extended cable, this is on television.
Kids need to learn.
Yeah.
Unreal.
They're all little brats right now, and this will stop them from being insubordinate. That's all. That's what I got out of the episode.
Tough love.
It's
right
all about.
there.
This is all about discipline.
So now,
Lucille.
if you can't tell.
Yeah,
so this is the greatest payoff for me in TV I've ever watched, like in a season to season payoff. There's nothing that's ever even close. But I wrote down some of the other all-time TV cliffhangers between seasons. One that I wrote down was The Hatch in season 1 of Lost. What's in the Hatch? Season 1 was such a phenomenon that I think we all were so curious. There was also another one in I think it's the 3rd season, but it's a little less big. Who Shot JR, which is not one I've actually watched, but I know of its significance.
That show was off the air just like a decade and a half before you were born.
Yeah. Followed by, of course, the spoof on The Simpsons, which I did watch when it was on TV. Who Shot Mr. Burns?
Yep.
We
Which
also
was fulfilling.
which is great. Yeah, which was great. It was Maggie.
It was Maggie.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was the WiIl and Smithers. Yeah. And then the last one that I wrote down was in Breaking Bad, the end of season 3. And each of these to me was like a whole like season off, what's happened, it's the topic of so many conversations.
Yep.
But really the big difference is that Breaking Bad and this one have happened in the modern era where Twitter exists. And it's just a different experience now. It's just I mean, there's nothing like it. Like those older seasons, there was no social media conversation that was just, I literally at 6 o'clock had to not answer a text, not pick up my phone, not look at Twitter, not look at Instagram, not look at Facebook.
Yep.
I honestly didn't even want to watch the Seahawks game, and I'm from Seattle because I was afraid the announcer would say something.
I mean, I had the death in Star Wars Episode 7 spoiled for me the morning of, so it wasn't even in like theaters until midnight that night.
Yeah.
Somebody spoiled the death on a random wrestler's Instagram like feed of comments. Like so like you can't trust anybody on this.
Oh,
especially once it's live on the East Coast, all bets are off.
Yeah.
100%.
And I think Twitter and social media, it actually decides how big a storyline is or how big an event is. We choose to believe, oh, well, that's the trending topic. That's what
I'm sorry, but the hashtags now having images associated with them on Twitter,
bat.
and the fact that it was the bat tonight, it's again sick smile. I'm dead inside.
Was it number 1? It was trending?
It's number 1 right now.
Number 1,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Walking Dead, bat.
What's the feed in the chat room like today?
Yeah, we've got a lot of people here.
I see it scrolling on the screen.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Someone actually commented on your shirt saying they want to get the same shirt.
You can get that from Loot Crate. LootCrate.com/whiskey and waffles is the best link to get it from, though.
Nice.
Yeah.
And someone, Alicia or someone wrote, Glenn died, so I'm going to need them to go and watch that
There we
episode
go.
before they join us. But yeah.
I feel like you probably shouldn't be watching this at the
Right.
moment.
Yeah, right.
Maybe come back in an hour.
Or they're being very sarcastic with us.
Right, yeah.
Which
But
I don't react well to snark.
there's quite a bit of chatter going on.
I feel
here.
totally blind, like I'm squinting really hard
Yeah.
off camera to those that are watching. Like, what are you looking at? It's because the live chat is up on the screen here.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, your messages on your phone are much easier to read.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
The only thing that I can compare this episode to, like television-wise, was the Red Wedding.
Yeah.
That it wasn't a cliffhanger, obviously, but that
Yeah.
for me was epic, was brutal, was quite a bit of blood. But this still was much more brutal, more savage, like you were saying.
Yeah.
This, still takes the cake for me.
The
but that's the only thing I can
all the
compare.
memes that have popped up since the end of the episode
Yeah.
have been phenomenal. There was one it was Stewie just like in his bed
Yeah, shaking.
and it's like, this is me after watching the episode, and it's like that was her literally as we were watching the episode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was chatting and talking until that happened. I cannot speak. I'm still having a hard time getting through this after show, you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
But let's so we've beaten the deaths to death at this point.
Yes, absolutely. I was gonna say about the Red Wedding. I mean, I agree with you. That was probably the other biggest jaw dropper I've ever watched on television, and also a very difficult one to not have ruined for you.
I feel like that made it a full 24 hours before it was out there.
Yeah,
I think we were just on that cusp of spoiler territory, and everybody has just said F that at this point.
Yeah, agreed. I guess it's true. We shouldn't totally spoil Game of Thrones if you haven't watched it.
Right,
There is an episode called The Red Wedding that's totally nuts, and you should watch it. As long as
I didn't
you
see
watch
what
the rest
happened
of the
though,
series.
but that's definitely epic.
It is on an equal level of brutality to me as this episode, but it's not basic cable.
No, yeah, exactly.
True,
It's HBO.
very true.
No.
Good point.
There's just like tits in the background, probably. Not really, but there could be.
There was definitely boobs in that episode.
Yeah, I mean that's that whole show. No. So anyway, moving past the death, then we have sort of the cleanup phase, which is the next period, which is also insane, and it gets even more intense.
Well, you also have Rick up on the roof of the van, so he jumps out, the guy, and Negan purposely multiple times saves Rick.
I loved that.
And it was like, oh, it's now, this is just showing off how much stronger I am than you, because he does it twice.
Yeah, and you know that you also know that he wants him alive.
Yeah.
He knows that he's valuable. He knows that having subordinate like lieutenants like that's a valuable thing to him.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
'cause everyone else is gonna fall in line.
Yeah,
and
they're
we
all
see-
going to fall in line with him.
In the preview, we see Rick go back to Alexandria and tells him, "I'm just gonna pass off power." Oof.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, he is saved, and he gets the axe, and he goes inside, and there's a moment, right?
You and I looked at each other, and it was interesting to me, and I'll keep this part spoiler free. We were both assuming it was going to go through Rick's hand because he took the effort of cleaning it on the spot.
Yeah, and he had like the peroxide, and he was cleaning it off, and he was putting, and you just sort of got this feeling of like, he's not going to kill Rick.
No.
So he's probably going to maim him, but why? But I was also thinking to myself, he won't do that because, well, anyway, we'll get into that with comic book spoilers, and we can talk about why that was relevant.
But practically, I don't think they want to do that, because how much of a pain in the ass is it going to be if every single episode you have to get rid of Rick's hand? Like all of a sudden it becomes the leg for Herschel in every episode.
True.
And it's a lot harder to hide somebody's hand.
It also, I just think, would not be a great decision for like his ability to be a strong fighting character. It's hard to be a strong character with one hand. It's doable.
Coulson did it.
I mean, it's totally doable. People have one hand in life and are strong. I just mean, like, for Rick to fight back and eventually, obviously, beat Negan, which is what we're expecting will probably eventually happen, unless he becomes the hero of the show, which I don't think is what's going to happen.
Negan is the hero.
It would be hard for Rick to do it with one hand. But yes, he then takes Rick back to the group, and he throws him out in front of everybody, and you kind of think, okay, now they're going to drive away.
Yep.
But he decides to make one more example, because Rick has the face, what does he say? You look like I shit in your scrambled eggs.
Something like that, yeah.
That's the look on your face. You're not following in line yet. And so he gets Carle, and he draws a line on Carl's hand, and he tells Rick to cut Carl's hand off.
Because Rick has the same look that he had earlier, where that was the "I'm still gonna kill you" look, and that's what the problem was.
Yeah.
That it wasn't subordinate yet. It was, I still think I have a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Did you think that he was going to do it at any point?
I kind of did.
I mean,
I totally did.
At this point, I think anything was possible in the show.
Right.
Yeah, I was like, when we're going towards it, and Carl looks at him, and he's like, just do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, he's totally going to do it. And Carl's just going to have his eye and his hand missing, and it's going to be the old. But I felt like Rick's level of revenge was already so pronounced that it wouldn't have even, he didn't need to do that to make Rick blood hungry.
Right. What was a little interesting to me was Rick puts his hand up, and he's like holding it. I don't know if Rick was still actually gonna do it, like even though he was ready to.
Yeah.
Like I was kind of expecting it to stop with Negan's hand stopping him.
Yeah. Yep.
But it was just like he's up, and then he's like, okay, you're good, and it's like, do you know if he was actually gonna do it? Because it's like he still could have just, thrown the axe down at that point.
And when he had it up, it looked kind of weak. It didn't seem like he was,
Yeah, I mean,
getting the swing.
Well,
in.
that's the problem, is if you don't do it strong enough, then he's going to have to literally chop it
hack at
off
that.
in like multiple swings.
Yeah.
And it gets really messy really quick.
Oh, that would have been
poor boy.
insane. I think that
You have to cut it like a piece of salami. That was my
That was
favorite
awesome.
line.
at a 45-degree angle, so there's something to fold over. We have a
right,
great
yeah.
doctor here. He'll don't worry, he'll live probably.
Walk it off, yeah.
I thought that was the most broken we've ever seen Rick, for sure. I mean, when he
absolutely.
loses Lori, that's like pretty bad. He's crazy at that point. He's like a crazy person, but I feel like that's the most broken. He was just like hysterical.
Yep.
Because even when he was crazy, I still felt like he had power, and he still scared me and he was intimidating. He doesn't intimidate me as much anymore. He seems smaller, seems weak.
What about when it looked like when Carle got shot in the eye and we thought Carle was maybe dead? He was more broken then?
No.
No.
He was still in fight mode at that point because it was he saw the girl and her kids get killed and everything like that, but Carle was still moving. Carle was still breathing.
Yeah.
This was the point of like, I almost took my own son's hand off. Like, for him to get to that point, he's broken.
Yeah.
Such desperation, and all hope is lost. And it's not even like, oh well, I can rationalize like, oh, I still have other people outside that could help us. Everyone's there, everyone's in that one spot, and you see the situation. And
he also broke in front of his entire crew of people. That's the thing that Negan actually doesn't emphasize. Where it's, I didn't just break you, but everybody here saw me break you. And that's the interesting part.
And that was his point, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was absolutely the point.
Because if all you did was break him in the RV, it wouldn't have had as much gravity to it as the fact that you have broken him in front of all of his most trusted people. Because that's who that group was. Everybody that came for this confrontation was Rick's inner circle, effectively.
Yeah.
Like, nobody valuable was left behind.
Man, and some of Negan's lines, like the writing was so entertaining. After he would like do something horrible, and he's like making Rosita look at Lucille, and like, my girl's dirty. Like he's saying all these things. Oh my god,
she's a vampire bat.
Vampire bat.
And he's so terrible, but I still laugh at all his jokes.
Yeah. the Rosita one was, oh, were you two like together? That sucks.
Yeah. The other one that's great is he's like,
and I feel horrible every time I laugh at that. But
right, I'm a terrible person, but it's
funny. He's like, we all got through this together. Even the dead guys on the ground, they get the Spirit Award for sure. Yeah, that's one of the best ones.
The Spirit Award was good.
And when he laughs at his own jokes, it's so endearing in a way.
Yeah. Also, his interaction with Stephen Ogg's character. Yeah. And it's like, oh yeah, what was his name? Daryl. Yeah, sure, that sounds about right.
I think that was my favorite.
Right.
That was my favorite. Also, why did anyone find it weird that Simon just had a magic marker with him, just ready to go?
No.
Nah. You don't have a marker out in the wild.
See, Simon as a character, I just identify as every character Stephen Ogg has played so far. So to me, he's a combination of Trevor from Grand Theft Auto, the villain guy, sub-villain from Westworld, and then also in the Rush Battlefield series that Corridor Digital did, where he's just like super prepared, but also kind of a nut job.
I have not yet watched Westworld. Have you?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's amazing.
I'm excited to watch it.
It's going to bring me up after this episode tonight.
Cool.
Because this just heart-wrenching episode.
Yeah, this was nuts. So after all that, and Negan packs everybody up and leaves them, gives them a truck.
Yep, you got a week to give me my first payment.
Then you had this like, Maggie is insisting she's gonna go to the kingdom, right? Is that what she's insisting?
Yeah, I think she was gonna bury Glenn.
Got it.
And she was telling people to go home and get reinforcements. Essentially, she said, "Get ready," and he goes, "For what?" And it's to fight.
Yeah.
And it's the first time where Rick has ever just been like, we can't fight.
Yeah.
That was, as much as we knew he was broken, that was the confirmation he was broken, because there was no bravado, there was nothing of let's turn this around. It was like, this is the end.
006D just twitching Glenn will come back as a walker. I don't think because his head's destroyed, but I did notice how insane the twitching hand was. That was definitely one of the most gruesome. That was one of those gruesome. The twitching hand followed by like Negan's bat with like a piece of Glenn's brain hanging from it. Both of those two details were just oh my god.
There was like a piece of scalp that was just like attached to one of the barbs.
Oh yeah.
It was brutal.
Ugh.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he beat anything out of them that could have brought them back as walkers.
Yeah, they're both done. They're both 100%
absolutely.
done.
I can't imagine trying to like be one of those people who was carrying them back. And it was also interesting because it paired off like Rosita and Eugene went over and they were picking up Abraham with Sasha, and that was like they were almost like the two families kind of thing. And that was even when you look at the end of the episode with the supper that never was, and it's like kind of half and half. Like there's the people who were on Abraham's side and then the people that were on Glenn's side leading up to it.
Do you guys like the little like dream supper thing?
I don't think you needed it.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little out of character for the show, maybe a little bit for me. But
Trying to do like a memoriam moment just because it's crazy to lose. I mean, Glenn's at least in voice has been there since the pilot.
Yep.
His voice shows up at the. You don't see him in the first episode,
Yep.
but he talks to Rick on the walkie.
Right. Yeah. I mean, for me, the memoriam, if it had been a scene that had everybody there and just had everybody there, I think I would have been okay with it. I think having the baby that he hasn't seen born and stuff, and it's kind of the future that can never be, that felt out of character. It's almost like if you watch like the Fast and Furious stuff where it's like, this is every moment that we've had up until this point, but there's never the moments we can't have kind of stuff.
Right. With Paul Walker.
Yeah.
Yeah. So aside from that, that's pretty much the episode. We got. I'm trying to think if there's anything super important that we missed.
Is there anything in the comments in the live chat that we're missing?
someone was asking if Maggie's still in the woods. So I think
No, we're pretty sure everybody was getting carried back into the truck, right?
because the last shot I remember, she was standing there by herself. So then what?
Well, I think
but,
she was
but
just
after that,
mourning.
Rick picked up the axe and then got into the RV.
Yeah, I think they all just.
They
I
all
think
just
they're all
did
going to
that.
go back to Alexandria and regroup. We're going to have like a couple episodes before Rick starts to realize that he has to kill Negan or try it somehow. I mean, there's no way the show just dies if Rick doesn't. So, I think it'll be interesting. Maggie. I mean, she's walking around. What do we think's going on with that? Did she have a miscarriage? Like, what do we think?
Right.
She was sick. Her stomach was hurting.
I think she was sick. I'm curious to see if she really takes this, because I didn't really consider that she might think this whole predicament, this whole situation happened because of her, until her monologue at the end where she was like, you guys are out here because of me, I'm the reason. I think that's why she was trying to send them away.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's going to carry through the season, and how much that's going to tear her apart, that she felt it was her fault that Glenn died and that all this
So
happened.
can we talk about the elephant in the room with this, though? It's Daryl's fault that Glenn got killed.
Because Daryl tried to hit him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and they took Daryl away. That was like something we didn't talk about yet.
Oh, yeah, they took
true.
it. But
Also, something just quick to point out, because I've seen it a couple times, and obviously we would like to respond to everything in the chat. This chat will go away when the episode's done, and we will not be able to read it because they won't be saved as comments. The questions, the hellos, there was a couple of highs. I want to say hi back. Follow us on Twitter and interact with us and ask your questions and say hellos, and I promise each of us will respond to everything.
yeah, we'll be tagged in the tweet from AfterBuzz at this when this episode goes live on here and everything too.
Because we're
Right.
super pumped with the episode, so just find us if you want to talk to us, because I would love to talk to all you guys about it. So Daryl gets taken away.
Yeah, but so Daryl gets taken away, but it's like, I feel like this is the start of something that's going to lead to a bigger, well, not bigger event, but it's going to lead to a longer lasting event, because there has to be some resentment from Maggie on this. Like, even though right now she's feeling like she's to blame that they had to go into the woods to get to the hilltop and stuff like that. If Daryl hadn't done what he did and took the swing at Negan, it would have ended at Abraham. Flat out. It would have ended at Abraham.
You think so, 100%?
Yeah, I do. Because he makes a point of saying, I told you I wouldn't let this slide. And then he
Shut that shit down. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And the fact that Daryl popped back up and made a move is what caused Glenn to die.
So you think Maggie's going to resent Daryl, even though Daryl's taken by Negan to be a part of his crew,
Yep.
which I think that's a reduced shooting schedule for Norman Reedus, which makes sense.
Yep.
And but it also means that Daryl's probably going to end up as like,
A henchman, essentially.
yeah, and he's going to hate it and resent it, and that's actually, I mean, that's a cool angle. I like that angle. It makes Daryl an interesting character that'll pop back up later.
Yep.
So I would think as we are starting to get closer to the end of the episode, we should probably move into predictions and then post-predictions comic book spoiler discussion.
Yeah, let's go for no comic book spoiler, and then we'll go into comic book spoiler.
Yes.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
You're popping a lot today. You keep doing that.
Am I?
Yeah.
Sorry on audio, guys, for all the pops.
So it's, at least it's you doing it on purpose and not just the microphone popping.
Yes,
So-
and sorry to you, John Carle, for all the pops.
Sorry, I'm just going to use the bat when the episode's over.
Oh, it's just plastic. I thought this was wood.
Do you think they would really that would be great? I walk in with a wooden bat, but it has plastic fake barbed wire on the end of it. That would have been
Softens the blow.
yeah.
I would love to see blood all over that. Is it just me? No.
I'm sure there's a version of this that has blood all
There
over it.
definitely is.
Yeah. So, geez, I don't even really know where to begin.
So-
When you guys want to jump in first?
Yeah. So I think the logical way to do the next episode is to let this breathe.
Yep.
And I think the entire episode revolves around Carle and Morgan
Really?
on their way to the kingdom, and
Yeah.
then the first encounter with Ezekiel. I think that's what's got to happen, and like you get like the cool like tiger reveal at the end,
Yeah.
and stuff like that, which we've already seen clips of and stuff like that. But I think you have to let this breathe. I think if you go right into him, you know, giving the speech that we saw in the coming this season, because they specifically said coming this season, not coming next episode.
Yeah, right. I agree with you. I think this was too much to unpack to go straight into just like back at Alexandria. So I would agree with you there completely. I do think we will get probably those two characters. I wouldn't. You think we won't see a single scene or frame of any of these characters in the next episode? It'll all just be Morgan and Carle?
I think if I was the showrunner, that's the action I would take. So yeah, I think there's a possibility of it.
I also my prediction, I'll piggyback on that, is 100% the reveal will be the tiger. We've seen it in the trailer.
Yeah, they've shown in the trailer, and again, that's something that does tie into the comic. But like, how badass is that there's a dude with a tiger running around right now?
It's gonna be awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
But you think episode 2, really? They're going to bring the tiger out?
I think so.
I think end of
Yeah.
episode,
Ooh.
because you have to have a moment of hope. Mm-hmm. That's the thing, is you do need a moment of hope at this point, because if all you're going on is this was, like we said, one of the most brutal episodes of a cable TV show we've ever watched.
Ever, yeah.
You can't go into a second episode that doesn't have a cool, uplifting moment.
Yeah.
Because then it's just going to be the most depressing show on cable.
Yeah.
Very true.
So
Yeah, absolutely. Any predictions out of you?
I mean, I guess I kind of agree. It wouldn't surprise me if they did a whole episode just not showing any of Rick and, you know, that whole storyline. And I feel like we've seen that before, right? Where they just get away from the main storyline and just focus on one smaller storyline. But yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about Ezekiel, so I'm excited to meet him, I suppose.
he has a tiger.
Yeah, that's what I hear. He has a tiger and white hair. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super awesome.
I still say it should have been Dave Fennoy, who's the voice actor in the Walking Dead Telltale game.
Oh, sure.
Because he looks just like the drawings of Ezekiel, like spot on.
Really?
The white dreads and everything, and it's like he's an amazing voice actor.
Yeah.
He could have taken that role. He's also a really good guy, so I always want to support good actors. I know.
I'm
Also,
curious-
the video game voice actors are all on strike right now, so he actually would have had the free
Yeah.
time to do
Really?
that.
I know, yeah, that all just happened like a week ago.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm curious to see what happens for the show. Like you were saying, you know, so many people have dropped off from the show, especially after last season and that finale. I'm curious to see if this premiere will now bring people back in. Once
this
people start
premiere.
hearing what's going on and
Yep.
how epic it was, is this gonna, you know, bring back up the fanship?
Should we hit a little bit into comic territory?
Yeah, I'll stick with my prediction, though, just before we get into that this is going to break. I think this breaks the record
You
for
think
the,
so?
the biggest premiere. I just don't think people were driven away by last season. I think cliffhangers in memory just get bigger. I think people, all anybody wants to know who dies.
I don't know if it will be the biggest in cable, but it will be the biggest of the series.
Of the series.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's get into the the second sort of version of our spoilers, which, and I guess before we do, let's give our last and final memoriam shot to
The first one was for
Glenn.
Abraham. This one's for
Okay.
Glenn.
And yeah, exactly. And to a great episode of television.
Yep.
So
I think he loses the hand before the confrontation with Negan.
you think Rick does?
I think Rick loses his hand.
Rick loses his hand in the comics. Do you know this or no?
No, I'm gonna leave. I'm just kidding. I hate spoilers, but okay, all right.
We said it 3 times, and
Yeah.
I got torn apart last season
Yep.
for saying
really?
that. So just once again, guys, we are talking about things that happen in the comics. If you're done, just be done. You can find each of us on Ben Bateman Media.
At the John Carle.
At Susannah_Kim.
So if you want to get off now, we're going to continue talking about comic book stuff. But yes,
For only like a minute or two.
yes. So, but that happens. This is why it was silly last season that somebody got as angry as they did. This happens like 7 or 8 years ago.
Yep.
Like he loses his hand like issue 24, and they're on like issue 140 or something.
Yep.
I see.
Oh, so sorry. What you touched upon earlier in the comic, in issue 100, was Glenn's death at the hands of Negan.
The exact shot, the exact everything.
The
That's
speech,
Yeah.
everything was spot on.
But Abraham dies in a different issue of the comic. Abraham actually gets the death.
he never makes it to the Negan scene. He never actually meets Negan. He got Denise's death.
Denise with the arrow through the
Really?
eye. That's him walking
okay.
with Eugene in the comics. So
Interesting.
they've switched things around. But one thing Kirkman has gone on record as saying is that he regrets taking Rick's hand in the comics because he feels that it made the storytelling harder. So I think that for the same reasons you said, as far as hiding the hand, and also just like for Rick to be a strong leader, it's harder to do if you have a character that only has one hand. It's very difficult.
But there is something also to be said of being the guy who is at a physical handicap and then still overcomes the villain. Like, it's David and Goliath. It's like it's not that he's smaller, but he could just become that much stronger.
I mean, by the end of it, when the current point we're in the comic, which I think I'm like 8 months behind because I read it in trade.
Yep.
Rick's leg has been like shattered and reconstructed. He has like a brace on his leg. His hand's gone.
He walks with a lamp.
Yeah, it's crazy. So anyway, those are the big ones. I think Maggie becomes a big leader in the comics, and I think that they are definitely moving us towards that story in the show, which is going to be great.
We have to have a full season before that starts to happen.
Yeah, and that'll be great. The next phase of the show is very cool, so I'm very excited. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in and watching. We can't wait to see you next week with Daryl here.
Next
the full
week
panel.
we start later though.
Yes, we will start. We will be
2 hours later.
Is it?
I think we start at 11 next week.
Follow each of us on Twitter. Follow AfterBuzz TV and go to the AfterBuzz TV YouTube. You can get all the information there on Sunday. It'll have a listing of the exact time this is going to stream.
Yep.
If you want to find any one of us specifically, please interact with us. You can find me at Ben Bateman Media on Twitter and Instagram.
At the John Carle and at Whiskey and Waffles on YouTube.
At Susannah_Kim. Please do.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.